Continuing our look at the PlayStation's 1994 launch lineup in Japan, this is Nekketsu Oyako, an arcade-styled beat-em-up from Technosoft. You're probably familiar with this one already. You pick from one of three characters, Guy, Cody, and Mayor Mike Haggar. Guy is fast but weak, Haggar is slow but strong, and Cody... Why would you ever pick Cody? Alright, so what I'm trying to say here is that Nekketsu Oyako is heavily inspired by Capcom's Final Fight. This shouldn't come as much of a surprise, since Final Fight was a pretty big deal when it hit arcades back in 1989. Among other things, Final Fight is known for its combo-driven mechanics and its large, detailed sprites. It gave you a choice of 3 playable characters, all of whom have their own unique moves and fighting styles. Compared to earlier brawlers like Double Dragon and Renegade, Final Fight represented a major leap forward in terms of pacing and mechanical depth, and beat-em-ups that came afterward had much higher standards to meet as a result. When Final Fight was later ported to the Super Nintendo, it inspired a new wave of console-exclusive beat-em-ups. Nekketsu Oyako follows in the footsteps of predecessors like Sega's Streets of Rage series, Jaleco's Rushing Beat games, and Capcom's own Final Fight 2 and 3. Nekketsu Oyako's gimmick is that all of its playable characters are members of the same family. The title is usually translated as Hot-Blooded Family, though Oyako literally means parent and child, so a more accurate title might be Hot-Blooded Dad and Kids. Hot-Blooded Dad is this slab of beefcake here, Rondo Hibino. His design is very obviously inspired by Final Fight's Mike Haggar, right down to the mustache and the fact that he's an ex-pro wrestler. That's quite a coincidence. Rondo fights alongside his 2 kids, daughter Rio and adoptive son Tora. Together, they fight to save their mom, who I guess has been kidnapped by fans of the 80s noise punk band Big Black, judging by all the signs they left around town. Anyway, you probably know how this whole thing plays out. Like in most beat-em-ups, you walk from left to right, beating up every living thing you see, and you can break stuff to find health refills and weapons. There's only a handful of levels here, and you can play through the whole thing in about an hour or so. Honestly, as far as brawlers go, there isn't much that sets Nekketsu Oyako apart, at least in terms of mechanics. One unique thing is that your choice of character affects what kind of weapons and items you can pick up. Rondo refuses to use guns, for whatever reason, while his kids are big fans of their Second Amendment rights. If you play as one of the kids, on the other hand, the game won't let you drink beer. Beer is for adult only. I guess if anything, the levels here are weirder than what you'd see in your average console beat-em-up. After finishing the first stage, you're eaten by a whale, and you have to spend the next level fighting your way through a whole bunch of octopuses wearing boxing gloves as you look for an exit, which, in classic cartoon fashion, turns out to be the whale's blowhole. A few minutes later, you visit an amusement park and fight a bunch of guys on top of a roller coaster. So, yeah, the game's got some personality for sure. Nekketsu Oyako's biggest problem is that it doesn't really represent the direction arcade beat-em-ups had taken in the years since Final Fight, and its gameplay feels kinda dated as a result. In 1994, Capcom's arcade division was at the top of its game, producing stuff like Alien vs. Predator, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, and Dungeons & Dragons Tower of Doom. In comparison, Nekketsu Oyako feels like a slightly better than average Super Nintendo brawler. It really falls short in terms of controls, too. It's weirdly difficult to pull off command moves, and there's a stiffness to every character's movement that makes controlling them feel sluggish and unresponsive. There's also a lot of slowdown in the later stages, especially in the 2-player mode. You might remember that Parodius from a couple episodes ago suffered from similar issues. I guess that's just something you have to accept about early 2D games on the PlayStation. It's a shame that Nekketsu Oyako doesn't measure up to its competition, because you'd normally expect better things from its developer. Technosoft is probably best known for its Thunder Force series of horizontally scrolling shoot-em-ups, with Thunder Force 2, 3, and 4 all hitting the Sega Mega Drive and Genesis between 1989 and 1992. The Thunder Force games all had some pretty impressive graphics at the time of their release, and fans hold 3 and 4 especially in high regard. You might think that Technosoft would have made its PlayStation debut with a shooter, but I guess they wanted to mix things up a little bit. Actually, Technosoft was no stranger to experimentation. The studio started out developing games for the PC-88 and other Japanese home computers in the 80s, and its early catalog includes stuff like racers, action games, and mahjong sims, along with a whole bunch of shooters. They were even nice enough to invent the modern real-time strategy genre with Herzog Zwei in 1989. So yeah, in other words, these guys had a history of exploring outside their comfort zone. Technosoft's sudden change in focus might also have something to do with the fact that shoot-em-ups had declined in popularity toward the end of the 16-bit era. At the time of Nekketsu Oyako's release, many arcades in the US and Japan had long since replaced their shoot-'em-up cabinets with one-on-one fighting games and, well, multiplayer brawlers. Games like The Simpsons and X-Men remained staples of many American arcades for years after they were released, and you can't really say the same of many shooters from that era. Unfortunately, the early 90s also saw the bankruptcy of several Japanese studios that had focused primarily on shoot-'em-ups in the years leading up to their closure, including Truxton developer Toaplan and Atomic RoboKid creator UPL. Technosoft may have wanted to escape its niche before it suffered the same fate. Technosoft followed up on Nekketsu Oyako's PlayStation release with a port for the Sega Saturn, and the company released a second game for both platforms a few months later. We'll see that one in a future episode. As for Nekketsu Oyako itself, well, it's not great, but like all brawlers, at least it's still fun with a buddy. And hey, come on, you gotta love Hot-Blooded Dad. Come on, Rondo, my man, let's go grab a beer with Mayor Mike and talk about the good old days. Next time, we're covering the great PlayStation Mahjong scandal of 1994. Did you know that the PlayStation had 2 Mahjong games at launch? Can you believe it? Like, which one's better? Are they different? I don't know. We'll have to wait till the next episode. See ya.